Run. It's the first thing your body tells you. When the light flickers, when the air grows cold, when the silence becomes too silent, your brain doesn't wait for answers. It just screams one word: run. And for most things in life, that instinct has kept us alive. A predator in the wild, a fire in the hallway, a scream in the dark. But in the world of horror, the rules are different. Because sometimes running doesn't save you. Sometimes it dooms you. There's something in the way we move when we're scared. Something that calls to the dark. Animals run to survive. But when a human runs, it's not just about escaping. It's about admitting something is stronger than you. And that fear, that energy, feeds the thing that's chasing you. The more you run, the stronger it gets. That's what no one tells you. That the act of fleeing is not just flight, it's a signal. A signal that you believe in the thing behind you. Even if you don't want to, even if you say you don't. The moment you turn your back, your fear gives it permission to follow. In our story, she ran too. It wasn't cowardice, it was instinct. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. Every step echoed like a warning shot. And the air felt like it moved with her. Not behind, not ahead, but beside her. As if the thing she feared wasn't chasing her, it was matching her. Stride for stride, heartbeat for heartbeat. And that's when she realized it didn't want to catch her, it wanted her to run. Because when you run, you don't look back, you don't think, you don't question, you surrender. And what better way to be hunted than by your own surrender? There's an old rule in stories like this. Don't run, but not because it's noble to stand your ground. Not because bravery wins. No, because movement draws it out. Your motion reveals you. Like blood in the water, like light in the darkness, you become seen. And once it sees you, you can never go back to being unseen. She stopped eventually. Not because she was safe, but because her legs gave out. And when she fell to the floor, gasping, broken, there was nothing behind her. No footsteps, no breathing, no shape in the shadows, just silence. And the terrifying thought, it's not chasing me anymore. It's already ahead. Because in the world of this horror, the faster you run, the closer it gets. So, next time the lights flicker, the hallway stretches, or something calls your name from the dark, remember this. It's not about how fast you can run. It's about whether you should have moved at all. Because some doors, some rules, some spirits aren't chasing you. They're waiting for you to run straight into them. It doesn't move when you look at it. That's what makes it worse. Because something that stares and doesn't blink and doesn't breathe isn't waiting, it's watching. There's a kind of horror that doesn't lunge, doesn't scream, doesn't chase. It just stands there, in the hallway, in the corner of the room, in the reflection you didn't expect. And you convince yourself it's not real. Because it's still, because it's silent, because if it meant to hurt you, it would have done it by now, right? But you're wrong. Because that stillness isn't safety. It's strategy. It waits for one thing the moment you look away. The second your eyes flinch, the moment your body turns, that's when it moves. Because it was never sleeping. It was measuring, watching the way you breathe, counting the beats between your heart's panic, learning how fast your feet move when you break. In our story, she stood in front of it, a figure at the end of the corridor. No face, no features, just presence. And it didn't chase her, it just stared. And the longer she looked at it, the less she felt like herself. Like her memories were being unwritten. Like her skin didn't belong to her. Like the air between them wasn't empty, but full of something ancient. It wasn't a person, it wasn't even a ghost. It was a mirror for fear. And when she blinked, just once, it was closer. Just an inch, but enough. Enough to know she couldn't blink again. This kind of horror is personal. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't tear walls apart. It tears you apart internally. Because when something watches you, long enough, quiet enough, you stop trusting your own mind. Did it move? Was it closer? Is it even there? And once you start asking those questions, you've already lost. Because it doesn't need to convince you it's real. It just needs you to doubt yourself. That's how it wins. Not with claws, not with screams, but with attention. It feeds on your stare, grows in your stillness, and moves the moment you can't hold its gaze anymore. She turned away eventually. Not because she wanted to, because her body forced her. And when she did, the air behind her wasn't empty anymore. It never moved, it never followed. But when she looked again, it wasn't there, which is worse than chasing, because now it could be anywhere, in the mirror, in the wall, in her. So if you ever see something that doesn't move, doesn't speak, doesn't break eye contact, don't assume you're safe. Don't assume it's not real. Assume only one thing. It's not frozen, it's focused, and you are its focus. There's always a place. Not cursed, not yet, just forgotten, hidden beneath dust and silence, waiting, not for anyone, but for you. We don't stumble into horror, we walk into it, deliberately, stupidly, curiously, because somewhere inside us, we believe we're the exception, that all the warnings, all the signs, aren't for us, until the door closes behind us. And suddenly we realize we've entered the one place we were never meant to be. In our story, the hallway didn't look evil. It looked empty, an out-of-service floor. No signs, no lights, no reason to exist. But when the elevator stalled, and the panel flickered, and the button for B lit up on its own, she stepped out. Because that's what humans do. We investigate, even when something inside us is screaming, "Don't go there." It's not about bravery, it's about disbelief. We choose to believe that our fear is irrational, that our instincts are just stories from childhood. But the truth is, we are warned, always, by the cold in the room, by the way the walls feel too close, by how time seems to slow down the moment we step in. That place wasn't abandoned, it was sealed. Not to keep people out, but to keep something in. But she went anyway, down the hallway, past the broken light, into the room with no windows. And for a moment, it was just an empty space, dust in the air, a metallic smell, a light bulb swinging on its own. But the second she stepped forward, just one step too far, the door slammed shut. No wind, no movement, just intent. As if the room had been waiting, and now it was awake. Every haunted place has a story. But some stories are unfinished, because the final victim hasn't arrived yet. That place, it wasn't haunted, it was hungry. And hunger doesn't scream. It whispers, it invites, it lures you in with silence and stays quiet until you can't leave. That's what she realized too late. That the reason the air felt heavy, the reason her phone had no signal, the reason her shadow didn't match her movements was because this room wasn't empty. It was occupied by something that didn't live in our world. Not quite. It lived in the threshold, in the line between the living and the lost. And the moment she crossed it, she became part of the story it had been writing all along. So don't romanticize curiosity. Don't call it bravery, because sometimes crossing the wrong line doesn't teach you a lesson. It erases you. And if you ever find yourself in a place that feels colder than it should, where your name echoes before you speak, where doors close on their own, don't go deeper. Because some rooms weren't built for you. Some hallways were never meant to be walked. And some floors exist only to make people disappear. Every curse has rules, not written, not spoken, but deeply understood by the ones who never made it out. Because horror isn't random, it's ritualistic, it follows patterns. And if you break the pattern, if you violate the unspoken rules, you don't just die, you become part of it. In our story, the rule was simple. Don't run, not because it keeps you safe, but because the moment you run, you accept its game. And if you accept the game, you've already lost. Because some things don't kill you with teeth and claws. They kill you with rules, spiritual rules, like don't look at it directly, don't speak its name, don't cross the line of salt, don't turn around after midnight, and most important, if you hear footsteps behind you, walk. If you run, it follows. You see, a curse is not a being, it's a system. A living code embedded into a space, a person, or a memory. And it waits not for courage, but for a mistake. The mistake is the trigger, the thing that activates it. And once you break the rule, it doesn't chase you, it claims you. She broke the rule. She ran. Not because she was weak, but because she was human. The air had turned to smoke. The lights buzzed in whispers, and a voice she didn't recognize but felt familiar told her to get out. So she did. She ran, and that's when the curse knew her. Not her name, not her story, but her fear. And that's all it needed. The thing about cursed spaces is they don't trap you physically. They trap your choices. They give you one rule, that's it. And they wait, because we break rules. We test boundaries. We think we can cheat death by outrunning it, but you can't outrun something that only exists when you try to escape it. That's the brilliance of it. A curse doesn't move through space. It moves through behavior. It follows action, not footsteps. It watches how you react, and it mirrors you. That's why when she ran, it ran too. Not in the hallway, but in her mind, in her guilt, in the cracks of her confidence. It ran straight into her memories, her reflection, her sense of safety. You can leave the hallway, you can leave the building, but you can't leave the rule you broke, because once the curse has your intent, your will, your fear, then you're not being hunted anymore. You're being rewritten, and the worst part? The rule always seems simple, too simple, so simple you think, it can't possibly matter if I break it. Until it does. So if you ever find yourself in a place that feels off, and you feel the urge to run, to scream, to look stop, because some rules aren't superstition, they're structure, and they don't exist to keep you safe. They exist to keep it sleeping, and once it wakes up, it remembers you forever. First, it's just a sound, a soft one, a creak behind the wall, a breath that doesn't belong to you. And you tell yourself, it's nothing. We all do this. We explain away the dread. We call it coincidence. We label it nerves. Because if we don't, if we believe what we're feeling, then it becomes real. And once it's real, it has power over us. But then the noises repeat. The lights don't just flicker, they pulse, like a warning. You start to hear footsteps, not loud, not rushing, measured, paced, like someone or something already knows your rhythm. And that's when the denial begins to crack. Because the walls are too quiet, the air is too still, and the shadows don't wait for light anymore. They move when you move. That's the moment it shifts. From I think I'm being watched to I'm being followed. But here's the terrifying truth. You're not just being followed, you're being hunted. And hunters don't chase. They observe, they wait, they study, and when the time is right, they strike. Not to feed, but to change you. In our story, she started to notice things. Her keys weren't where she left them. The elevator didn't stop at the right floor. The same name kept appearing in graffiti, even though she never spoke it aloud. But the worst part? The mirrors, because they stopped showing her reflection and started showing something else, something behind her, always just slightly out of focus, always a step too far to touch, but never out of reach. Being hunted doesn't feel like being chased. It feels like being read. Your habits, your fears, the way you look over your shoulder even when you're alone. It learns you, because this kind of evil isn't mindless. It's intentional. It doesn't want to hurt you by surprise. It wants you to know it's coming, to feel the pressure of its approach, to live in the terror that your next step might be your last. And that's the cruelty of it. It doesn't kill quickly, it savors you. The way your breath shortens, the way your footsteps speed up, the way your voice cracks when you say, "Hello, is someone there?" Because there is, but not someone, something. And it's already inside the room. You check behind the curtain. You turn on every light. You sleep with your back to the wall. And still you hear it. In the floorboards, in the pipes, in the silence between heartbeats. That's when you know this is no longer paranoia. This is confirmation. And now every second is a countdown. Because when you're being hunted by a human, you run. But when you're being hunted by something not human, you pray. And hope that your name isn't already carved into its story. So if you ever feel like you're not alone, even when you are, don't dismiss it. That pressure in your chest, that itch on your spine, that urge to move fast, but not turn around, that's not fear, that's recognition. Because something isn't just behind you, it's choosing you. What if the thing you're running from wasn't behind you? What if it's inside? Because here's the twist. No one wants to believe. You brought it with you. It didn't follow you home. It was already there. That hallway, that cursed floor, that shadow at the end of the room, they were just mirrors, and all they ever did was show you what was buried deep down. Horror doesn't always invade you. Sometimes it awakens you. The darkness you fear most isn't the one outside your window. It's the one behind your eyes. The part of you that never healed. The guilt you pretend doesn't exist. The memory you locked away so deep, you forgot it was even real. But the entity didn't forget. Because it's not a stranger. It's the part of you that's been waiting. In our story, she escaped the hallway. She got out. She ran into the sunlight. She told herself it was over. But it wasn't. Because every mirror still flickered. Every photo she took was blurry, except her eyes. Every silence felt louder than ever before. And every time she stood still, she heard footsteps, even in her own home, even in her own mind. That's the cruelest part of a real curse. It doesn't end. It relocates. It moves from floor to floor, from corner to corner, from outside to inside. And now it speaks in her voice, finishes her thoughts, wakes her up with dreams that aren't hers. She stopped running not because she was safe, but because there's nowhere left to go when the thing you're running from is part of who you've become. You see, horror doesn't always want to kill you. Sometimes it wants to live in you, to wear your skin like a jacket, to think your thoughts like they were always its own, to replace you not by entering your world, but by erasing the boundary between yours and its. And when you scream, it screams with you, not in pain, but in victory. We tell ourselves horror is about monsters, about blood, about shadows. But the real terror, the real horror, is recognition. That moment when you realize you're not just a victim, you're a vessel. And the only reason it found you is because a part of you was already calling it. Not with a Ouija board, not with a ritual, but with grief, with rage, with that one unspeakable thought you've never admitted to anyone. She stopped seeing it after a while. No more shadows, no more voices, no more flickering lights. But she also stopped seeing herself, stopped dreaming, stopped sleeping, stopped trusting her own reflection. Because when the horror finally gets in, when it settles inside your bones, you don't run, you don't scream, you adapt. So, if you survive the story, but don't feel like yourself anymore, ask this. What escaped with you? What memory isn't yours? What fear suddenly feels familiar? Because the scariest place isn't the hallway, or the room, or the elevator. It's the one behind your eyes. And once it's in there, you don't need to run, because now you are what others run from.